The vision is the why. The mission is the how. And then the core values are behaviors that you want people to exhibit in order to support the mission and the vision.
We all know that there's nothing worse than working really hard on something that you shouldn't have ever started doing. That's what happens with a lack of vision.
Oftentimes we have the vision, but we do a lousy job of communicating.
Yeah, without the vision, you don't know where to align yourself.
Hey there, I'm Jeff Cordes, and welcome to the C.R.A.P Leadership Podcast. My philosophy is about C.R.A.P, caring, respect, appreciation, and praise.
And this is Randy Walensky. Been a speaker, trainer, sales professional, and coach for over 10 years, using all of Jeff's C.R.A.P. And we want to bring these principles to you in your organization. Let's jump in. Today, we are talking about vision, right? Because what do we know about vision? Without the vision, the people perish, which is so funny. That's biblical. It's been around for thousands of years.
Right.
Why? Because people are people, and they've been that way for forever. It's a human nature issue that without vision, people lose their way. Without vision, they aren't motivated to get anywhere. And so if you don't have a vision in your organization, proceed with caution, because you're walking easily into peril and disorganization and wasted time and wasted effort.
Yeah, oftentimes organizations don't have a vision, which always surprised me because, again, as an HR leader, I worked in organizations where if we didn't have a vision, we created one. Because the vision for the organization, it's the purpose. Where's the organization going? Why are you there? Why do you exist? And otherwise, people don't know why the organization exists and what should they do as a result, and how should they behave to help achieve that vision. And again, it's a little more complex than that, in that you talk about the vision is the why, the mission is the how, and then the core values are behaviors that you want people to exhibit in order to support the mission and the vision. And those are designed so that people have a roadmap. But today we're going to focus specifically on the vision, because that's where everything starts. And Randy talked about it, is organizations should have a vision. I personally have a vision for my life. I'm not going to get into those details, but the point is I have something that guides me, that is a beacon, and that's what a vision is. It's a beacon. It tells you, where you're going. It's about building a culture, because the vision alludes to the culture, and people need to act consistently with that vision. So if someone's in a dilemma and they're not sure what they should do, they can look at the vision and say, okay, this is what I should be doing consistent with the vision.
Yeah, without the vision, you don't know where to align yourself. Where are your goals? Are you even working on the most important thing? We all know that there's nothing worse than working really hard on something that you shouldn't have ever started doing. That's what happens with a lack of vision. And one thing that you'll see even comes up more often, it's at an epidemic level, is engagement. People are disengaged because they show up to work like a cog in a machine, and they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, this has been going on for how long, Jeff? You can probably comment on this. Gallup has run the poll on engagement for how many decades?
10 years. It's been more than 10. It's been more than 10 years. And what they find is, as scary as this is it's a problem. And I'm doing this one from memory, which is not good.
I think it's like 2/3 are disengaged.
It's about 2/3 of the people are either disengaged or actively disengaged in fighting the organization. I mean, it's a huge problem in America today.
It's such an easy thing if you think about it. Well, and maybe we can discuss that as well. Maybe visions aren't that easy for people to create. That's why they just show up and do whatever's easiest. But if you think of it, you should at least know the direction you're going. You should check the map.
Right.
You should check the GPS. Whatever your thing is, you need to
it's
figure
like
out.
It's a compass. It's a compass. And in one organization, you mentioned engagement and engagement studies. We did an engagement study, and basically the people came out and said, well, why are we here? What are we doing? And we looked and said, well, and we did not have a vision. we didn't have a mission or core values either. But the point being is we didn't have a vision. And so we actually got people together, senior leadership, a variety of different people, and said, hey, why is it that we're here? And basically what we came up with is, well, we're a marketer of innovative, I'll say widgets in this case, because I don't want to give the organization away. We're a marketer of innovative widgets and parts that make a difference in the United States military, because we were a defense contractor. And it was funny because then ultimately we didn't put it in the vision statement, but everybody talked about in the shop, the engineers, customer service people, that we helped America win wars
That's a
because of
bigger
what,
vision.
right. We didn't put it in our vision statement, but the point is, everybody used to talk about it, saying, what do you do? I help America win wars.
You
You
know,
know,
one of my favorite stories you've told me, Jeff, and I've taken that with me because I've seen the side of even people that are, say, like in a factory, or maybe they're frontline customer service, whatever it is, their job can be viewed as particularly mundane, and it's easy to
right,
lose the vision. Why am I even showing up? Why does this even matter? Yeah, we have to do it, but it's not tied to the bigger picture. And one of my favorite examples that you shared of that was the socks. You got to share with people about how exciting and amazing and sexy socks can be.
yeah, I worked for a hosiery company at one point in my career, and it was high tech. I mean, we did socks for like the Iron Man. As a matter of fact, we were a sponsor of the Iron Man. The Iron Man, and we talked about the fact that we help people win marathons, because anybody who knows that's a runner out there, if you're running and you develop a hot spot because you don't have the right socks, all of a sudden you get a blister. You get a blister. You can't continue. You can't win the marathon. And so we talked about the fact that we helped competitive athletes uh, win marathons, win basically. Um, and it made a difference, because then when we rolled down into core mission and core values, people said, okay, quality is important. Top quality, because you don't need a sock causing a problem when you're running. And so there would, it just permeated the organization,
Yeah, and
and it
when you're
really made a
doing
difference.
yeah. When you're doing that, like what you were saying, the mundane task, that making sure that the stitching and the weaves are all in their proper order, and that you loaded the machine correctly, and whatever those things happen to be, you can be very disconnected from what does this matter? Okay, I'm just here, I'm just collecting a
Right,
paycheck. It'd be very easy to fall into that. But if the vision is no, 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 we're searching for excellence because we're a cut above the rest. These aren't just going XYZ. These are going to people who are winning marathons. You have that shared kind of contribution and glory a
right,
little bit, that like what these are more than just you put them on your feet and you throw them off at night. No, we're making a difference in individual people's lives, and then people can take pride in the work because they're not just
right.
doing something mundane. They're taking the ordinary, and it's seen in the extraordinary light, and both are true. You could look at it and or you could say, I have a purpose, I have a mission, I have a vision, I know what I'm doing, and I know it matters.
Well, and that's why, again, everything starts with the vision. It's the purpose. Why does the organization exist? Because you want people to believe. I always used to talk about that. We want our people to be believers, because if they believed in what they were doing, they took more satisfaction from the work, enjoyed coming to work, knew they made a difference, and they help the organization be successful. And if you're a CEO listening to this thing, the advantage of that is made more money. I mean, we're a for-profit. We're not for profit, but it's the same. And it's particular. I mean, I'll say it. I work with a lot of not-for-profits. Having that vision, because oftentimes the salaries aren't as high and that sort of thing. What happens is if people know that they're working for a greater good, the purpose, it makes a huge difference. So everything starts with that vision.
You gotta
Exactly.
communicate that. You gotta sell everything you have. That could go right into a recruiting and a retention and creating loyalty
Yep.
is whatever you have, even if you had high salaries, yeah, they might just go to another place where they can get a high salary. But what you're doing making a difference? That's an extra reason for someone to stay. And then we'll talk about this later, but even communicating how it might align with their individual. You mentioned you have a vision. If something would be outside of your vision, you're going to start feeling that. If your personal vision doesn't align with the company's, you probably start to go, you know what? My values are different. What they want to do and what
Right.
they believe in is different than what I believe
Yeah.
in. So I need to go somewhere else where my vision aligns. And that would be a great thing with not-for-profits. A lot of times those are mission focused people. And I use mission in
Yes.
like the bigger picture mission, like not a mission statement, but like they're on a mission in life and that feeds their soul. So they want to be
Yeah.
there. And the money is
Right.
a secondary thing to the purpose.
Right. And well, I matter of fact, I was reading the book Grit. Just finished that thing up, and the author talked about the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll. He's created a vision for the Seahawks, and then of course he's taken it to the level you need to, but we're not going to get into that. I mean, he created a mission and core values, and they talk about the fact that once a Seahawk, always a Seahawk. I mean, and whether you like Pete Carroll or not, he can be a divisive figure for whatever reason. I don't know. But the point being is he's created this culture around the vision that he has for the Seahawks, and it's made a difference. And I've even seen it in some organizations who didn't have a vision, but the department managers themselves actually
Mm,
created a vision for their department because they knew their people needed a reason to show up every day and wanted them to behave in a certain way so that things could get done. So, I mean, if you're a manager listening to this, again, I think it's a great takeaway. Like I said, CEO or manager, okay, this is how you get people inspired. This is how you get people to be believers. And it'll make your life easier. And I will guarantee you, it'll make your organization much more profitable as well. So, I mean, there's, and if you're a not-for-profit, again, if people believe in the vision, what happens is all of a sudden, yeah, they'll say, okay, yeah, I'm working for less, but I'm making a difference. That's
mm,
huge. That's
mhm.
absolutely huge.
Yeah, a lot of people are waiting for the vision to strictly come from on high, and they just pass it down like it's marching orders. But a intelligent department manager, frontline supervisor, all the way down really to anybody should be casting the vision and aligning the vision. So
Yeah,
even if
if
the
you
vision's
don't have
weak,
one, right? Yeah,
even if it's
absolutely.
weak, you should be able to tie in and give your people purpose, give your people a reason. Even if it's a localized vision that we want to be the best XYZ, what do we need to do that? Even that's enough. They don't have to even feed the greater good, but if you have that culture of excellence and looking for new ways to do things in new and better ways, and that's part of your culture, you can instill that, and then you can track for that, you can measure that, you can say, are we
Right,
doing this because this is where we're going? And then when they're like, yeah, I do need to do this spreadsheet a little different, or I do need to record my calls, or I do need to do these things because we're going towards this, and that's why
right.
you're doing it. Because everybody's going to have things that they just don't want to do. It does not matter. I've never heard anybody who's like 100% on board with every aspect of their
Yeah,
job, even if they're aligned with their vision. So
right,
you need to then see those mundane tasks or those things that just you have to do as purposeful to lead to the greater good. And if you can tie
right.
those together, people will then do them. And you will have a different culture when you're going towards a common goal and a common purpose. It's a different energy that you have in a team. And that's because it brought this up in losing people and retention. You lose people just because they don't know why they're here and they're just looking for something else, a
A
group to be
purpose.
a part of, a purpose. So
Well,
purpose
and part of
and vision
that,
all go together.
yeah, and part of that, I think one of the things that we don't do, oftentimes we have the vision, but we do a lousy job of communicating it.
Mm,
And you got to communicate that vision. I mean, I've seen again. and oftentimes this is where things get lost in the shuffle, is when you have this vision, and that's great, but then when you get into the department level, you need department managers. In one organization I worked in, we talked about the vision in department meetings
Mm.
to make sure that the communication got down to everyone, and that everyone understood what's our purpose, why are we here. Because when you're grinding away day to day, I don't care what your job is, to your point, we all have to do things that we don't like to do. All right. I mean, we do the things we don't like to do so that we can do the things that we do like to do, Joe. But the point is you got to communicate that. I mean, that's an important takeaway as well. Is having the vision by itself is not enough. You got to communicate it properly.
Yeah, I think there's something we could touch on, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, Jeff, about how to create a strong enough vision. I'll give an example of a few, and definitely this is life changing. It's worth taking some time to go watch it after this. It's probably about the same, maybe 20 minutes long max. But Simon Sinek talks about the golden circle, and then he parlayed that. That was a TED talk, the OG TED talks, and it was an amazing presentation. Parlayed that into a whole set of speeches. The start with why, start with the biggest picture, and it
Right.
communicates his main takeaways in that. He's going to do it more eloquently and beautiful than I am here, but when you have these big visions, they communicate with a different part of your brain, a deeper core part of your brain that just resonates with your whole body. And then you talked about how seemingly things that shouldn't have succeeded, that had no good positioning, that weren't in the market properly, they weren't the most well funded, they had everything against them, all these different scenarios, they triumphed because they had an individual vision, a why for doing something, and they beat the odds in all these different areas, from the Wright brothers to Martin Luther King Jr. to why TiVo failed, how Apple communicates. There's all these different things of like, it's
Right.
part of who the identity is and where you're going and a bigger picture. And that speaks to our souls, quite frankly. So the vision is not something that can be idly skipped. But what I wanted to, I said all that to say, what's a, we'll go into just a little bit of the tactical, in the sense of how do you even determine that this is a good vision for it. Besides for that, we've got to take the mundane and make them extraordinary. Besides for, we've got to take this and align it with what comes from on high.
Yeah.
How do you even get a vision to start with if you don't have one?
Yeah, I think the key is if you have the vision, you talk about, how does this, how can you know if you're being successful? If your people are believers, if your people come into work and they're fired up, uh, want to do a good job, feel they make a difference, that's how you know if you've got a good vision. If,
Mm,
and I
mhm.
always, I always tell clients, if we do an engagement survey and it turns out horribly, we need to look at, are we communicating our purpose? Because oftentimes that's an underlying problem. And that's why people are discontent, because they don't know why they're there. They don't believe they're making a difference. And that's absolutely huge, because in particular, the younger generations, we talk about millennials and Gen Zs, they want to know
Mm.
what their purpose is and why are they there.
Yeah. Well, they've heard from so many years on that topic that their parents just showed up to work and they were like, "I'm doing it just to make money, but I wouldn't be doing this if XYZ." And that seems very unmotivating. You could understand why so many are reluctant to join
It is.
something where a lot of people said, "Oh, you just hate it, but you just do it anyway." They're like, "Is there a better way? Could I enjoy the work that I'm doing? Could I be doing something for a greater good or a purpose that might get me fired up and energized for it?" So even if people criticize that, I guess got to go get a job. It's like, you're going to have to get a job, yes, but you could make it align with who you are as a person and your
Yep,
values, right? And so maybe the one part I'll add to that is, if you don't know and you don't have a personal vision, like Jeff, you said you've got a personal vision,
I do.
it's kind of like, how do you create that for yourself and also make sure you're aligned as a worker, as an employee? Like, I need to know that my vision aligns with the company's vision, but what if I don't know my vision and I'm just showing up there and I go, "Oh, that's a great story, I
Right.
guess I'll follow you." You have to take some time to figure out your values and to write things down and research and maybe align with the things that feel right, and then write out something that's kind of aspirational, but where you're going and why. You need your own personal why,
I think it makes your, I
and
think
then
it
to make
makes,
sure that the business
yeah, I just
go
think
for
it makes your life better, but that's a totally different, uh, philosophical discussion. But we also, the one thing I want to close on, and we talk about not being hypocrites. We're already over 20 minutes, and our goal is to keep it under 20. So we didn't accomplish our mission, Randy. But three takeaways for today is the vision is about your purpose. Keep that in mind. People need to know what their purpose is and why the organization exists and how they fit in. The other one is you got to communicate it properly. It's great to have this vision, but if you're not communicating it to your people, it doesn't matter. And the last thing is if you can, get people involved in writing that vision, because you'd be surprised, that person who's sitting in their cubicle coding, or that customer service person who's dealing with stuff day in and day out, the insight they will give you as you're creating your vision. So those would be my three big takeaways for today. And on that note, we are going to close. I'm Jeff Cordes.
I'm Randy Walensky. And remember, scan that barcode. Go to jeffcordes.com. Join the conversation on social media at Randy Walensky, at Jeff Cordes. We want to hear from you. What else should we be talking about? We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we talk about engagement. We want you to get involved when you get off the bench into the game. And remember, finally, as we always close, give your employees crap, caring, respect, appreciation, and praise. You got to lead with crap. Why? Because crap works. Take care, all.
All right. Appreciate you. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.